All right, we're going big paper.
That's fine.
Okay.
I got a little wireless extender. Where you had a wireless extender, yeah, jump to TV. And then that has a network cable.
How's it going?
This is working, right?
All right, did you find the right cord?
No, I'm supposed to get it covered.
Well, when we put it all away, should we see if there's a cord?
Yeah, that
It's parts of it.
yeah, I should have just looked for that, not rubber.
A cord. Question is it D cord? I don't think it is. Nope. What happened to that? Where else did they use that over
I
there?
don't think planning for the car of it the other day.
You don't think of it?
We think it's somewhere either with the planner or, cause you know that wacky one? Ron said that was just way down on top of the bag, and she was like, she didn't think to look at the car. She just used the there.
Yeah.
So she's like, I'm wondering now if,
What would you put on it if it's over at the
Are you anticipating violence tonight?
I certainly hope you.
Oh, come on, you want another board meeting? Now, I've seen the agenda, the best hope for anything is violence.
what time do you think we'll be out of here, John?
I'm hoping for 8:30.
Oh, 8:30?
Yeah.
You're late. I think 7:45.
That sounds like the Harbor District, that's a...
It's bigger, probably more expensive, and it's more.
So, it's forever. First one, that's,
It's just a little foot pedals. They have to,
Where's Sean?
she wanted to see what's on TV on a Tuesday night.
Oh, yeah? Well, she didn't tune into the broadcast? Call her up, so I've got it all ready to go. It's gonna work good tonight.
I told her, we're gonna switch it up to where she'll do the first council meetings of the month and I'll do the second.
She got the better council meeting.
Yeah. I actually wanted it done.
Yeah. Yes, there's more action at the beginning of the month.
I got the better deal.
You got it all in here?
We got volume here.
You got pictures from all three cameras?
No. We got nothing for camera 2. And number 3 don't look good.
Cool.
You guys send this?
Yeah.
That has something to do with it?
I wonder if Siobhan was able to close my program,
The resolution.
What?
my PowerPoint show.
Yeah,
Is it all set?
I got it on there, yeah.
You're awesome, because I have it on a stick if you need it.
Yeah, I have it too on a flash drive, but it's good you brought it just in case.
Pretty good. How's the little fish just laying on the coastside?
Can you find me Alan's
Like I'm dangerous. Hey.
What, you need a free show already?
No, we can English there. Google Flight said we were doing something that we were crossing one of the rules.
Oh,
And we were afraid of losing our free status, so.
Oh, so you don't want to mess with it?
Oh, Mr. Tucker, how's it going?
Fine, thank you. I see you work over here as well, huh?
Oh, I tell you.
Any place to go at.
I told you it was going to be wireless. This
I'm
guy
sorry?
showed up.
You told me what?
Wireless.
Oh, yeah. Good luck.
It's confirmed. We got sound. I can watch it. I'm taking it.
Got the truck, came back, got the pan, went back, dropped it off, came back, and all that stuff. They're more like 200 miles, but I've gotten them done every day.
You're back in bed.
Problematic.
Luckily,
How does he not feel comfortable with this change?
my car is in the shop for a service, so I've got this lower pool car. The pool's the same, but it doesn't have the decals and it's got other stuff that's different. But it's a pool car, so it's got GPS tracking in it, which means they know how fast you're going, they know where you are, they know, and so I'm forcing myself to use the cruise control on the freeway because otherwise I would not be doing that, going back and forth like that. So I'm not only am I all done, but
See if this is really great.
now with your new car, you should be out driving 24 hours
I
a
don't know
day.
how to use it. Simple.
It's not, and then it has the
She says it's
same
a
thing
girl.
in there, so always. children.
Yeah, tell
I
them they have
really
to,
bet you
tell
they did
them,
not see the lawns.
they never do. Tell them they have to point it at the computer. Or,
And it's
a lot of
always
times
nice to
they'll be
see.
pointing it at the screen.
Yeah, thank you, that's how the memory
Excuse me, buddy.
Go.
But I think if you fill it up, God, I can't remember, it's a lot more than I was getting ready to be happy, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And it's nice pulling into the gas station and getting back.
My two personal vehicles and my motorcycle,
Mhm.
all have to have
Oh, yeah,
Land Rover.
yeah,
Range Rover.
yeah, oh, yeah,
No, can't just be,
yeah.
no.
My sister has.
And they
a
get
big
terrible
one.
mileage.
Yeah, my sister has a big one. It's nice, it's cute. It's
All right, Nick, your presentation is first, correct?
Pardon me?
Your presentation is first.
I would be
Let's
thrilled
see.
if that were the case. Good catch. Those reflexes like a mongoose.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Is
It just says proclamations and present. Oh, there I am.
Yep.
Okay, so you are. So how this works, I'm gonna give you this little guy. I'll show you.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Right now, it's just silent, so to speak, so you just click on the dark screen. There, that little screen on the right-hand side, and it comes back. And then as you're talking, you just move forward.
Fantastic.
So if you wanna go back a slide, you just hit the back.
Well, even somebody as special as me when it comes to technology could probably figure it out.
And you don't even have to point anywhere, this is
Oh.
the broad range,
Oh, I
so
don't have to
even
aim
if
it at
you,
the,
even if you just
computer
stand
or
there and
anything?
have it sitting there to where it's facing the laptop, that'll do the work. Okay?
thank you very much.
No problem. If you don't
That's
feel
slick.
comfortable with that, if you would rather I do it, then I can do it, and then you can just say next slide, next
Oh,
slide.
I think I can figure that out.
And you have both of mine on there?
Yes.
Okay.
Both of yours are like one measure, okay?
I have one measure J, one is for signage and one is for.
Is it all the same one?
No. Okay, let me see what you have.
Yeah,
Because
come
maybe we
here.
can.
She sent me one, and she said, here's Michelle's.
Yeah, because I sent one last week, and then I sent one to you.
There you go.
Okay, no, I sent her a signage one last
You
week.
have a presentation on yesterday?
Well, it's not on OES, it's on the
This will be the last stop.
No, she didn't send it to me. Do you have it in yours?
How's Tom doing? Still, I haven't seen him forever. Is this
Let's just try it. If this one is what we can do. Yeah, because I can do this.
He actually gets nervous? He gets nervous?
Here's Michelle's. Maybe she'll make those,
Yeah, do I do the whole thing or just?
I think I called it. And then there's a bottom.
You know the secret thing about this one, right?
There's a whole butt.
Oh.
I didn't know those.
I can't find it, so, I can email it to you. Will you be able to log in and get your email? Okay. You're gonna have another flash drive?
Probably show it to the sponsor here.
Yeah, because I sent it to you before I went on vacation.
That's probably why she
I have one in my pocket if you guys need it.
Oh, she already have one. Okay, perfect. Can you
on the screen?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a cap or something.
It is right here.
Just
Yes.
Gary, how are you? Excellent.
I even said there were so there's only two, right? Yeah, do you know what they're?
There are no logon servers available.
There's,
Is this connected to the server at the moment?
there's a way to connect with people in this.
Michelle says that she sent you another, it's last week. And so she's tried to log in here and it's not working, because otherwise we measured it. It was for signage.
HMB City.
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Was it the Gateways program?
It doesn't say.
No, on your project, your slide.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
it was.
Correct. Where's closed
Yes, it
session?
is. It is.
Yes.
It is.
Yes, it is. Yeah, she said she sent it to the person.
How are you?
Good.
See you again. It's going okay. It's going okay. How about you?
She's gonna go to City Hall.
We're still dealing with your issue.
She didn't realize, she said maybe I didn't read it, but I didn't realize it was stressed.
Right, and council put money into the budget that's gonna be adopted for a study, and what should we do? And so that's gonna happen, well, in a few weeks here. So we're already looking at different firms that can do that work for us. So that's kind of where we have to start with that. We took, obviously,
Yeah, I know, right?
Yes.
So she said that she was gonna be anyway.
And make realistic recommendations. So that's what we're doing. So once July 1st comes around, we'll be ready to kind of pull the trigger. Tonight we're just looking at because the other.
I go from junior high school, just walk, get on the monorail and go around. I'm a participating in that. Well, we've been in contact with the state.
state. And I actually contacted Senator Jerry Hill's office. I've been getting kind of ignored for 2 days. And their response has been that it's going to be like we have to close it, we have to get our engineers there to figure out. But still, I feel they should come to the community and give an update. Good. Good.
No, I'm
Just give us information. So what they told me, I saw an email from Jerry Hill's office, the full, yeah. So she forwarded me, yeah. So she forwarded me a response from the state saying, yeah, we intend to go June 3rd or June 17th. And so I need to come here to provide the reading council. So I think it's the least. Because we're here for you. It's a lot. Okay, call me anytime if you have questions about it. And once the new fiscal year comes around, obviously we'll be including you guys and wrestling up what we're going to do. Because we want to kind of get kind of on the ground level, so that we don't have kind of this mistake that we have. Good.
You read the whole thing.
Sure. Less I know about it. I just do. I'm painting this foot. Unless they pull it. Shouldn't. What item you got on tonight, don't you? Is it your show tonight? No.
I just have the wireless a work contract that they pulled. And then the ditches, masons. And storage business.
Mine have always been March. Big items usually June. And then usually September. Those are my 3 months of like. It's all been going down. Yeah, June 17th, I did that whole, what is realistic now? Huh? Oh, yeah. Thanks. I wrote a whole thing on that.
I was sick for like a week. Where you been? Have you been here?
It's stranger.
I know.
How are you?
Where do you want me? Where do you want me? So then, yep, I got mine.
And half the computers in China are on XP.
So bad.
We're talking to Karen.
Like it's a liver take you like
Late lunch, early dinner, right there with the farming. Everything's around. Do you think? Oh, where did they get in? I mean, 9:50.
All right, I think we're getting closer here. Thank you for your patience. I'm sorry tonight we're all running a little bit late, but we'll see how our video team is working out. We're good to start. So good evening. Welcome to our Tuesday, May 20th, 2014 City Council meeting. At this time, we will have the roll call, please.
Councilmember Alafano?
Here.
Councilmember Patridge?
Here.
Councilmember Kowalczyk?
Here.
Vice Mayor Fraser?
Here.
Mayor Mueller?
Here, so ordered, and then we will go to our Pledge of Allegiance, please. So I don't believe we have any proclamations or presentations this evening, is that correct? None? So we will move on to mayor's announcements. So bear with me here, I got a lot of paperwork. I think we have Boys and Girls Club tomorrow night out at Oceana Hotel, correct? The 21st. Scholarship Awards Night on Thursday night. One of the awards nights. Boys and Girls Club softball, I'm sorry, girls softball first pitch on the 31st.
Yes, 8 o'clock.
8 a.m. I'm told to be there. I've been warming up. And then we will have another meeting before tip o'clock, I believe.
It's June 2nd.
June
4th.
June 4th. So thank
June
you
4th,
for
tip
helping
o'clock.
me with my mayor's announcements. Do you have some, please?
Yes, just the local branch of the American Association of University Women are having their White Elephant Sale this weekend, and they wanted us to remind everyone it's at the train depot at the foot of the Johnson House, and it starts from 9 till 3. They have everything that starts from $2 to $20, and there's a wild sale from 2 to 3 as they're closing up at $2 a bag. So, and the proceeds from that go to support the programs that the AAUW does, and that's local scholarship program, as well as technology, science, and math summer programs for young ladies.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything coming up here in a busy schedule? And I believe next we will have a presentation from Coastside Emergency Corps. Is that correct? Welcome.
Good evening. Good evening, members of the council, Mr. Schillinger. Mr. Mayor, thanks for having me. You know, the main reason that my position was created was to coordinate emergency services and responses on the coast side. And recently we've been trying to find a way to coordinate the efforts of the various CERT-trained people on the coast, the ham operators, the Medical Reserve Corps folks, into zones where they can be kind of self-contained and respond to their own immediate areas. These zones are primarily based on geography and population. And this is just an idea, just a starting point, and we're looking for lots of input before this thing gets set into stone. But disasters, of course, as we all know, don't make appointments. And they can happen within the city limits, they can happen in the county, they can happen in both places at the same time. So why do we want to unify the coastside communities? Well, obviously, emergency providers are going to be overwhelmed very quickly in any sort of a large event. And we're going to need to rely on our CERT-trained people and our community response groups to help in those efforts initially. And where do we start? We really didn't know where to begin. I know that there are several hundred CERT-trained people up and down San Mateo County coast, but there's no real organization to them. There haven't been a lot of drills or meetings or anything to kind of unify them. Some people need refresher courses. So this is just a place for us to start. We have a disaster, all these different elements are going to be included in any sort of a response that we have. And so we're trying to figure out a way to get them organized by region. KEEP, of course, is going to play a large role in providing lists of resources that we're going to need. The ham radio operators are going to be critical, especially if normal communications channels are down. The medical unit, which we are working hard to maintain in its current status, is going to be involved in that as well. And of course, when that's over with, we have to worry about how we're going to go about recovering from this event. Philosophically, what I'm here to talk about is just the idea. We don't know what the final product is going to look like exactly, but we have to start somewhere. So this is what we've been presenting to Mid-Coast Council and PMAC and to you and to some other groups on the coast, looking for input. We think it could work. Obviously, we need to discuss it some more. Create what we need from a simple diagram. People seem to work better with visual aids, so we're working on a diagram that'll explain this in a little more detail. These maps are awfully hard to see. They're small, but we're talking about a Zone A, a Zone B, and a Zone C. Zone A being north, the north part of the coast, but this side of the tunnels. Half Moon Bay is generally in Zone B, but it's not a city limit type of zone, so it does include county area, and then Zone C in the south, down to the south border of the county. And of course, these are our major population areas, as well as geographically, they're rather isolated from each other. The idea behind this is to identify the people who are still willing to respond. I'm going to be going through all of the CERT-trained people on the coast, even those that took it many years ago, and see if they're interested in continuing to participate, if they'd like to do a refresher course. And then we're going to have some drills, we're going to do some meetings, and just get these lists together so that when and if we do need them, they'll be ready to not only take care of themselves, but their immediate neighborhoods, and if necessary, if the event is only in one part of the coast, obviously, they'll move up to one of the other zones to help out. Will it work? Well, we certainly think so. We certainly hope so. We're going to make it fit because we're going to depend on the input from the groups that are involved in the communities and the government agencies, first responders on the coast, to make sure that it fits us. Anything that we do is going to make the community safer. I mean, where did we begin? Anything we do is going to be a help. And so what is this all about? It's about saving lives, of course. That's the number one goal. And in order to do that, we have to have some organization to this coast side. Is it more effective than each jurisdiction working on their own? Well, of course. It has to be, because any event of a magnitude that's going to require emergency response is going to affect more than just one community, and so we're all going to be in this together. An example of this is Asiana Flight 214. The police departments and fire departments had trained for airplane crashes at SFO for decades, and we had it very well planned. Every cop knew which intersection they were responsible for going to close down, and all the other things that are involved in that sort of a response. And then when it actually happened, boy, the cops all went out and they closed down all those intersections, and everything came to a grinding halt. Fire engines couldn't get here from outside because the traffic was completely gridlocked and all the exits were closed. They couldn't get to the exits. So we learned a lot of things from actually doing it. We're trying to learn from that and not have to design our coastside emergency plan after we have had an emergency and figured out that what we were doing wasn't working. A big concern is jurisdiction. Is it the county of San Mateo? Is it in the city of Half Moon Bay? You know what? We'll figure that out later. The emergency response comes first, and figuring that stuff out is a secondary concern. At this point, I'd be very happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions of Nick? Councilman Alfano?
Nick, thank you for coming tonight. The one thing you tend to hear, and I guess maybe in any town, is people saying, well, I didn't know. And I think it's so important that when all this work and effort is put into the planning, that we somehow hit people 7 different ways with what this is all about, what will happen if there's an emergency, phones, radios, and all that. And the 2 things that are in my head are that we have the quarterly newsletter, which obviously we have a mailing address to everybody in town. So, I mean, that could be a great way to help get the message, but we know that some of that's going to go straight in the recycle bin. I'm also thinking the second thing is that we try to organize some kind of neighborhood block captains who, when you guys are ready, set up community meetings within these neighborhoods and utilize that to try and get the word out, because I want this, all this great work to be of some use. It's getting the information, this great information, out to the people that are going to need it someday. So, thank you.
Yes. And may I say that one of the goals and one of the jobs of the CERT people in each neighborhood, almost every neighborhood has some CERT-trained people in it, and they're kind of the natural block captains for this type of thing, because they've had the training and they're certificated and they're sworn disaster service workers and all that. So we're going to hit this much like we did to advertise this most recent CERT class, which was a record size. We've never had a co-side CERT class with this many people in it. And that's because I advertised it every way I could think of. The schools sent them out to their mailing lists. We had it on the Half Moon Bay Review. We put it on the school's websites. I put posters up anywhere I could think of to post the flyers, and we got a great turnout from it. So we're going to use every advertising media that we can think of to get everybody aware of how this is going to work.
Thank you. I think if there's no further questions, I'm sorry, Vice Mayor. I believe it's today, and this is so appropriate that we're looking at emergency preparedness, because I believe it's the 1-year anniversary of Moore, Oklahoma today. Is that not correct? Or yesterday or today? Where this whole...
Not certain about that.
Tornado, I'm sorry, that wiped out the whole community and
yes.
killed many, many individuals. So, you know, nobody wants to prepare for a disaster, but it is, you know, I think it's really our responsibility as appointed and elected officials to step up and be prepared for the future of a disaster. So I think it's a good start. And this is a partnership, I believe, with the city of Half Moon Bay and the county of San Mateo. Is that correct, Interim City Manager? Yes. And so we appreciate that. And we're going to continue to work forward to make sure we are prepared. And let's never hope we have to use it, but we have to be prepared. So thank you very much for coming this evening. Thank you. Okay, we will have a report from our city attorney at a closed session.
Mayor Mueller, members of the City Council, there were 2 items on this evening's closed session agenda pertaining to real property negotiations. One was the 501 Main Street, which is the Half Moon Bay City Hall. The other was the 2450 South Cabrillo Highway property. There was no reportable action on either of those items.
Thank you very much. So now we'll move on to City Council reports, and it might be probably the first time in my recent memory where Councilmember Patridge, do you have much to report tonight? I know you've been traveling a lot.
No, I've been traveling.
Personal reasons.
The only thing I can say that I did when I was home for a couple of days was I did judge the high school talent show on Friday night. But other than that, I've been all over, and I'm leaving again tomorrow. So when softball season starts, I will be planted in Half Moon Bay.
Councilman Kowalczyk.
Thank you. I aspire to have as few meetings as Councilmember Patridge. My activities in the past couple of weeks have included a good number of meetings regarding the new library project. The community outreach has been tremendous, and I'll ask Vice Mayor Fraser to comment as well, but our work with staff, with Alex, and with Group 4, our project management group, has been just excellent. So we've been getting input from meetings at the library, from the farmers market, outreach at the youth summit, and that's just been tremendous. So I believe we've got input from near 1,000 individuals so far. I also represented the library subcommittee at the most recent Cabrillo Unified School District meeting, where with Alex and Don Merquez from Group 4, we presented a concept of parking sharing with the Cunha Intermediate School and received a very favorable response. Our go-forward direction is, the idea is to not build parking beneath a new library with a price tag of around $7 million, but to instead look for a way to collaborate with the existing entity, which is the school and their parking lot. But the feedback was very positive. It was even stopped this weekend saying, hey, we really like your idea. We'll work out the details. And there are details to work out. Nothing is set by a long shot. But there is a willingness to collaborate for the betterment of the community, much like we're doing with the school district and the skate park and with other organizations. So the momentum is good and the collaboration is good between us and the school district. I also was at the Sewer Authority meeting this week, where we had our new general manager is there full-time now and is doing well and is sharp, and we definitely appreciate that. There's a number of issues coming up from Sam around budget and some costs, and the one I want to highlight is some interest in Granada Sanitary to change the way billing to be a fixed fee versus a variable cost, and I want everybody to know I'm for the fees to the Sewer Authority, and I'm against that, and Ellen and I are against that because it's charging a fixed fee for something that varies, which at the end of the day will not serve us well. And then sadly and notably was paid respects to Eddie Andrini Sr. last week, and I think the turnout was remarkable and appropriate for a man of his stature. I think that was really terrific. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman Alfano. I know you were traveling also.
Yeah, I have really nothing to report, so jet lag is still here, so if you see me nod off, you'll understand it's not on purpose.
You attended the SAM meeting also.
Yeah, Rick covered it very well.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Continuing on the library outreach project, we've had just great response since the farmers market, the public open houses, the market over at the New Leaf Shopping Center, their Family Mercado. We've had some outreach over there and great response. And also at the Youth Summit was really good. The kids were fun, they were engaged. So we are up over almost at 2,000 responses and input, and we're in starting phase 3 right now of the project. And if I just can call this up for a second, I can tell you more. The first phase, we had 500-600 responses of this, and a good majority of them were the people from the kiosks. And then from there, we've gone out to the schools and had the open houses, and just over 1,000 people have responded during that time. Interesting, just to report some of the preliminary information as far as the outside design, the materials, seems like wood structure seems to be favored by many people. And as for the outdoor value, the landscape value, the coastal natural seems to be the one that they're going. That is close to xeriscape. Of course, everyone's conscientious of drought tolerance and low maintenance on that as well. And again, at the Youth Summit, it was just wonderful how the students were so engaged in that. And have to thank Sharzad, the sheriffs, everyone who had a great part in it. I know the mayor and Rick Kowalczyk were very engaged in that as well. The kids were so excited about it, and they had some of the groups from the high school came down to introduce the 8th graders to some of the leadership opportunities they had. So a lot of fun. I think we know what we're doing. This has been a couple of years, and it's definitely worth pursuing, because I think we have a lot of value in that. And the kids had great response. They were just clearly telling me without even asking me, and they were having so much fun. And want to thank the Lions also for providing hot dogs and sodas and some refreshments, and Cameron had root beer floats for them. So it was very festive, I must say, as well as the speakers. And thanks to Sharzad, who's on our Park and Rec committee, who just worked tirelessly at this. She was just, there were a lot of things shifting throughout the day, but she kept going through on that. And the other thing, as I'd mentioned a couple of weeks ago, when the other bridge that's failing, the one on the coastal trail, how it's impacting so many people on the coast, not only for recreation, but getting to school and getting to work. And I had spoken with some neighbors, and I know the city manager has a lot more to report on that in the 2 weeks since we last talked about that. And we've been telling people to be more engaged with their representatives in Sacramento because of the not so quick response of some of our state officials, so I'll let the city manager share more about that and what we can all do to help facilitate that.
Thank you. So if you bear with me a little bit, it's just amazing how many positive individuals are stepping forward here in the last month or two, and they always have, and it's so great. And I have a quick little note here I'll want to read later, but you know, the negatives are always going to be there when you're an elected official, and we can take that. But boy, people have been just so positive with stepping up and doing so many good things. And I'd like to, as Councilman Kowalczyk mentioned, just a week ago, everyone really stepped up. The city staff, in honor of the Andrini family, Lieutenant Muncie, your officers, your sergeants, everybody was there. They brought in motors for escorts for the family. It was just a very, very special day for the family, but in a very unfortunate, sad time also. But thank you, staff. We were out there 6 in the morning setting up barricades, everyone, and the big tractors and trucks came in, and it was a fine tribute. But thank you to all of you and Lieutenant Muncie for coordinating that whole event. And I might call on you to say a couple words in a moment also. So then I'll get the quick stuff out of the way here. I did attend the CCAG meeting, and I guess we will all be assessed a little bit more. I believe staff, you're aware of that. There will be an increase from CCAG for about 5%, so we'll get that out of the way. And then with our Councilman Kowalczyk last year initiated a citywide award program for students at our schools here in the city of Half Moon Bay. And Michelle Pollard, you were just amazing putting it all together for us. Myself, Sherzad, and Marcia Riley. Yeah, thank them for coming out and sitting there visiting with all those applications and going through those. But it's really special where the city actually comes up and puts some funds towards it. And it's really a great process where we're actually honoring some younger students on the way up. And I think that's very noticeable there. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate that, Michelle. And then without a doubt, the Youth Summit was pretty amazing, and as mentioned, Sherzad was there, Lieutenant Muncie, we had captains, we had more guns. I always tease the guns, who's watching the bank, like the old Western movie that when I can't sleep at 3 in the morning I'm watching, but they were there, and Mike Williams started it out, myself, and our keynote speaker, Mr. Willie Stokes, was a little bit late, but we all got through that quite well. And I tell you what, I think the kids were just in awe with Special Agent from the FBI coming, Marlo Graham. Ms. Marla Graham was just had us in awe. I think she got a standing ovation, if I'm not mistaken, officers. Talking about cybercrime, and we have a young man here, I'm sure you're quite aware of all the devices out there that you guys can go through, but boy, we have to be very, very careful on there because there's some bad people looking out there. And actually, our daughter traveled for work recently to Brazil and got home and her credit card was compromised by like $40,000 pretty quick, and so she went through the process with the country of Brazil, and we figured that's normal. So it's not the kind of thing you want to hear. But she did a great job. The students came down from the Coyote group with Sean, and he put together a good one there. And I just think everybody stepped up. All of you were there. Naomi was on travel, I believe, and hopefully if we just catch a few people that were having some issues, I think we've really all did the job. So I can't thank everybody enough for that work and the community officers there. So that went quite well there. And then when we're talking about SAMs and fees, it won't be long. In my other hat I wear with the Water Board, we've been in litigation with East Bay Municipal Water District and their member agencies for a number of years in a major Attorney General issue, and we're going to be settling very soon, and it'll be announced, which is exciting. But it really comes down to flow, and whose flow is it and where it comes from. And I think that's very important, and we'll continue to hopefully work through those issues there. And my last one, I just was hand-delivered tonight. Again, as I said, the negatives that fly around, there's some positives, and so if I may read you this quickly. This is from Ashley Malarkey, I believe, and she's from Hatch Leadership. And isn't this amazing when you get a note from a young person that's interested, and she wants to ask the mayor a few questions about smoking and my opinion. And the first question is, do you support smoking? No, Ashley, I do not support smoking. Are you against it? The second question, yes, I'm against it. The second question is, how many people you know that smoked? Well, I think if you look at the greatest generation, which hopefully your grandparents are still around, they all smoked at one time in all those old movies. And there might be a couple people in this audience that smoked at one time too, but no, we do know people, but we don't recommend it. Third question is, what are your concerns about smoking? And it's, without a doubt, it's our health. We have enough problems in health as you get older, and we definitely want to do that. So do I see it increasing or decreasing? If I had my crystal ball and if I was king, I would definitely make it no smoking. And it's all about our health. And why do people smoke? Do you think it's fun or cool? And I guess it kind of starts out cool, but then it becomes addictive, in my opinion. So, Ashley, I appreciate that. I wanted to go public with this, but I'm going to have to give her some response. So, I just got it hand delivered tonight. So, when you're the mayor, you get some good things too. It goes along with all.
It was electronic.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Vice Mayor stated it. She had wrote it and not on the iPad or whatever, and emailed it to me. So we're going to get her. She'll be the future leader of this community someday, stepping up here. So I think that was all my reports. If I missed something, I apologize. But we do have a lot of activities going on all the time. But in the meantime, all of us, or some of us here, really do have a career that we're trying to get through and get organized with. So we'll move on as quickly as possible here. I don't believe we have any organizational excellence this evening. And City Manager, it's going to be yours, and we will let you make your report, please, and then we'll get our public forum friends up on the podium.
I was going to report on the library project, but two council members already talked about it. But I would say that it's hard to be in this town without seeing the kiosk. Wherever I go, there's the kiosk. I was at the Youth Summit, there was the kiosk. I went to Rock the Block, there was the kiosk. And it's all around town. People are really turning out to talk about that, so I'll let that one go. The Main Street Bridge, we had talked about this previously. We were talking, the next step in the process is to develop the scope of work. We were hoping to be able to bring the scope of work to you for testing at this meeting. We had asked Caltrans to comment on the scope of work. They gave us preliminary comments. We incorporated those preliminary comments. We sent it back to them because we want to make sure that when we test the bridge, Caltrans is in agreement with what we're testing it on. And unfortunately, Caltrans did not return the scope back to us in time for us to bring to this meeting. And we're still waiting for their response. So we will bring it forward when they do their due diligence and bring it to us. And then we will bring the scope to a public meeting so you can review it and everybody can know what we're testing for. Coastside Hope Emergency Supply Trailer. We have contributed a trailer to Coastside Hope. It is being located at our courtyard. This is so they can store food in case of an emergency for the coast. So Half Moon Bay will have supplies, will have food, as will other entities, and we are providing them the space and the trailer at no cost to them. So that's a couple of issues. I was going to talk a little bit about the Youth Summit. It was well covered. The only thing that I know that you didn't talk about was the local radio station 1710 recorded it. And so if you would like to listen to the speakers, it's available on podcast. So that's just another bit about the Youth Summit. The other one, talking about the bridge on the trail. So we had asked we're trying to find out the information just like the public is. When is it going to be repaired? What are they doing? We're getting similar kinds of responses that it's in process. We had asked the Parks Department to come and make a presentation to the city council, so that way they can come and you guys can ask them directly, the public can ask them, what the process is, and they turned us down very politely, that they would like to have all their ducks in a row before they come forward, that they would like to have full information. So we contacted Senator Hill's office to help us, because I think this is an important issue in the community. I get emails on it as well. People care about what's happening, and even if you can't provide full information, they at least want to know what the process is, what the thought process is on how it's going to be repaired, and what we can do to help the process along. So we contacted Senator Hill's office. Senator Hill contacted the Parks Department, and the last email we got from Senator Hill is that they are trying to coordinate to get somebody to our meeting, either at the June 3rd or the June 17th meeting. So if the public wants to help through this process, maybe contacting Senator Hill's office and letting Senator Hill's office know that this is an important coast side issue and that they can keep the pressure up on the Parks Department so they don't back out of their commitment that they made to Senator Hill. So that would be my suggestion as to what they can do to help us. So those are all the main topics that I had to talk about tonight.
Yeah, Councilman Kowalczyk, but I just want to, or just while you're still there, I understand there's a potential serious issue on the Main Street Bridge regarding our main fire flow water line that's hanging on that bridge. Is there something that will be coming forward with the potential seriousness of the Coast County Water District's water line?
Yes, so we had a meeting earlier last week with the Coastside Water District, and they are going to be making a presentation, they're putting together a presentation for the City Council at either, I think, their June 3rd or the June 17th meeting, when the Coastside Water District can get it together, as to bring to you what the condition of their current water line is. They have pictures. It is a very rusted water line. They are concerned about how long it will last, and they're working towards a long-term plan, but they're also looking towards a short-term plan. I'll let them talk about it when they come, but they are working towards a plan to bypass the existing line on the bridge, and working, they're going to come to council with a plan on how to deal with that. At the moment, it may be trying to figure out how do you bring that pipe on top of the west side sidewalk. It may be other ways, but they will be coming to you to talk about that.
Thank you. I might add that when you have treated water going over a fresh waterway, it is a very serious issue. If there's a major leak or a break, I can tell you in the past years, San Francisco PUC, which is an amazing water district for us, all of us here in the Bay Area, had a break in their line into San Mateo Creek, and they were fined $1 million for that treated water going into a freshwater body.
Right. So I mean, when you bring chlorinated water into an area where there are fish don't seem to do well in chlorine. It doesn't work. So that is the concern of the water district. Their concern is also that if they had to if there was an emergency where they had to shut down that water line and they did not have immediate ability to repair it or to replace it, that's the 10-inch water line that serves our town, which would leave only an 8-inch water line, I think, coming down Highway 1. And that has real impacts for our ability to have water pressure throughout the town. So they are being proactive, and they want to take care of the situation before there becomes a problem, and they are planning to come to the council to talk about it.
Thank you, Councilor Kowalczyk.
Thank you. Regarding the bridge on the coastal trail, it's more a comment for the community and I think perspective. I was stopped in town at Safeway, riding my bike, walking no less than 10 times to discuss the bridge on the coastal trail and its outage and what it means. The perspective is interesting because being in the city council, we know our jurisdiction, right? We know where our boundaries are. We know that's the state. It's important, and I agree, the community doesn't care. And I don't think they should care. Except that we need them to reach out to Senator Hill's office to make sure his office understands the urgency that we get attention to the bridge on the coastal trail. The number of times I said just that to the folks that reached out to me, it was, well, why would we do X in town when we need this new bridge? And I said, well, and I have to explain it's not, it's separate. We don't have authority to fix that bridge. If only. We could trade bridges perhaps, but there's not that option. But so the community in general, they want it dealt with. And I want to encourage the community to reach out to Senator Jerry Hill's office and make sure he understands the importance of this. It's not merely a recreation passage by a long shot. There are children commuting to school. There are people commuting to work, riding their bikes to work. I've heard a lot of this feedback. So I wanted to share that perspective and just encourage the audience to stay active on that. Thank you.
Can you just mention that one, and then we have a comment with public.
I didn't read this one, John.
No, but I mean, it's about the bridge, so I mean, you're more than welcome.
I'm going to ask you to read that.
Okay.
Sorry.
Very good. So moving on to public forum, and I know Councilmember Patridge has been here a lot longer than I have, but this is special this evening that we have two of our harbor commissioners here to make some comments, and I think it might be the first time we've had a couple of them here in a while, or you've had them in the past. You've been around longer than I have. So welcome, Councilmember Bernardo and Tucker, please. Welcome to our City of Half Moon Bay Council meeting.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Mayor Muller, Vice Mayor Fraser, and Council. It's a pleasure to be here tonight, and thank you for having us. I'm Robert Bernardo, and it's my pleasure to serve as the president of the San Mateo County Harbor Commission. And what we're going to do tonight, I have here Commissioner Jim Tucker, who's the immediate past president of the Harbor Commission. We're going to talk a little bit about our accomplishments this year and what you can foresee in the coming year. So as you probably already know, Harbor Commissioners are responsible primarily for the fiscal, environmental, and operational policy of the district. And the district meaning the two harbors, the two public harbors for which we all pay our property taxes to, including Pillar Point Harbor and Oyster Point Marina in South San Francisco. As you probably already know, Pillar Point is a major commercial fishing operation, as well as sort of the attraction for the annual surfing competition, Mavericks Invitational. And in South San Francisco, Oyster Point is known for its leisure boating facilities, as well as a new ferry service, commuter ferry that connects South San Francisco to the East Bay. And basically, in the coming year, we've got a few exciting things planned, and Commissioner Tucker is going to sort of outline where we've been.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I start immediately with a sense of guilt for you pointing out that we hadn't been here in a long, long time, and I apologize for that. I think I'm the second most senior individual, and we should have been here sooner. It's a new regime that we're starting. In any event, I'll be brief. We have just 3 items that I want to share with you. First is an award we received called the Clean Marina, and that's a very competitive, very controversial award that gives us statewide recognition. It has to do with environmental issues and how we handle them, also issues of sustainability. And it's the first time Pillar Point and Oyster Point have ever received that award, so we're very, very pleased and proud of our staff. Second was the Port Captains Association of the state of California. Gave us an award for over 1,000 search and rescue missions accomplished by our Harbor Patrol. And that's amazing, 1,000. That means that Coast Guard didn't have to come down most of those times to effectuate those rescues, saving human life and property. As recently as Sunday morning, this past Sunday morning, the office received a mayday call from a large vessel that was a sail vessel and had run aground on the rocks, and they weren't sure exactly where they were in the fog. How far away from Pillar Point opening were they? Our patrol went out, and about a half an hour later they found them, and they found 3 people in a small rubber raft. They had abandoned their vessel. So they brought them back into the harbor where medical attention was waiting for them, went back out and pulled the boat, the sailboat, off the rocks out to open area where a tow service could pick it up and finish the towing service. Very, very proud of that. That's the training that our people have that sometimes we overlook and forget. The third item and last item that I wanted to bring to your attention, when I was first elected to the district some 16 years ago, competing with Naomi's 20-something years, we were in debt between $17 and $19 million to the state of California. And that was for money that was borrowed for infrastructure repairs and projects, capital projects, because the state has the money through the Department of Boating and Waterways, and they loaned it to agencies. When I got there, we had no plan to pay that money back, and the state was getting kind of antsy because a couple of the small districts were going bankrupt. We went to Sacramento, we renegotiated our loans. They worked with us, we put together a business plan, and began with Senator Quentin Kopp, who was a state senator then, began to put payments down once a year. So we started at almost $18 million, and when we make the payment this month, we'll be down to $5.7 million that we still owe the state. So we take our fiduciary responsibility with your tax dollars as seriously as you take them here in Half Moon Bay. When we make the final payment, it will be the year 2017, and hopefully we'll be debt-free from the state of California, 1 year ahead of schedule. So we've done well, even in these trying economic times. And that's pretty much it. We thank you for the time, and we apologize again for not coming more often, and we make sure that we'll do that again in the future. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate you taking the time to come. I know you're busy out there, but we definitely value our Pillar Point Harbor. Everyone thinks it's Half Moon Bay, and we all consider family together there. So thank you too very much for your service to our Harbor District. Paulette, thank you for your patience. Welcome. And I don't know if anyone else would like to speak at the public forum. Now would be the time, please.
Hi, thank you. And I just want to start out, this is about the Pilarcitos Creek Bridge on the Coastal Trail. We are, when I say we, there's two, by the way, there's two websites that I know of that I think would be good for the council to be aware of if you're not already. One is called nextdoor.com, and the other is CircleSavvy.com. And basically these were started by people who wanted to be able to connect up the neighborhoods. And my husband Walter wrote a letter to all the city council members, as well as and got a response from Marina, which was great. Thank you very much for that. About the bridge, and posted it. He posted it on Nextdoor.com, and somebody else, Kurt Harris, who I don't personally know, felt very much the same as we did about that this problem of not having that bridge functioning, and put together a petition. And through change.org, and put together this petition that would go out to the California Department of Parks and Recreation. It didn't take very long for us to get, we're now up to 187 signatures, and that's not through like being at the farmer's market or standing out in front of some, I mean, we'd be much further, needless to say, with more signatures if we had that kind of a, manpower operational. But in a very short time, to be able to get 187 signatures is pretty significant in less than, this was like within 5 days, just from the website. So I brought a lot of the comments from people from Half Moon Bay about, because when they put their signature on, they also write the comments. Kurt, I know, went ahead and sent the petition also to Jerry Hill's office. I wrote a letter to Jerry Hill. My husband wrote a letter to Jerry Hill. My son did. A number of other people I know are in the process, or they've already done so. So they're definitely getting a lot of communication from people in Half Moon Bay. But I also think that it would behoove the council and our mayor to let everyone know what you're doing to help this, because people are very, very concerned about this. It is a real problem for many people, especially with young children. That trail on next to the highway just is not safe enough for really young kids. They can't be, protecting themselves from cars coming in. They're not old enough for that. I take my 5-year-old grandson along that, tried that, and it was very scary. I don't like doing that at all. So I brought these comments so that you can see them, because I think people in Half Moon Bay would like to know, that even though it's not under the Half Moon City's jurisdiction, we're hoping that you have some kind of influence, with people in the state, that not only just the citizen, but also everybody on the council, and especially the mayor of Half Moon Bay, is really concerned about something, not only fixing this, but getting information back to the people in the community about when, how, and this is going to be resolved, because it's real important. Thanks.
Thank you. Just, I don't normally respond to the public, but through staff and for the rest of the public, Maureen and I coordinated the response back to individuals, number one. Number two, we personally talked to these people immediately when it happened a long time ago. And if you look at the history of state beaches and parks, they don't respond to too many people, unfortunately. And we've talked to our supervisors, we've talked to Assemblyman Gordon, I've talked personally to, pardon me?
We offered funding.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor, reminded me, we even offered funding to help move this thing along. But when you're talking bridges, it's not an easy situation, as you well know. But we're not going to let it go. And so I appreciate you challenging myself, and I've continued to do it. There's not much I can tell other than what staff has reported on, because they don't tell us anything. And then once we get some information back, I'm worried about every bridge in America, ours in particular, but I'm worried about Frenchman's Creek Bridge too. That bridge is over Frenchman's Creek on the coastal trail. That's a disaster waiting to happen too. So our President Obama spoke recently about bridges and infrastructure in America, and I think 1 out of 9 bridges in America are failing. I believe he mentioned the other night in New York. So we hear it, I get you, we're trying, we'll try to get more information out to the public about it, and once we hear something, we'll continue to share it, without a doubt. We're not hiding anything. And then I also have a letter here from Sabrina Prieb, I believe it is, stating the same thing. She can't understand how this has gone on this long and why it was damaged to begin with, and we all agree with her. So we're going to work on that. So, Lieutenant Muncy, would you like to say a couple brief words here quickly? And then we'll move on to the next item on the agenda.
I don't have anything prepared. Good evening. Does anybody have any questions for me about the events over the last couple weeks?
I apologize. Go, Councilman Kowalczyk.
No question, but I want to commend your efforts and the service of you and the deputies. Your presence at an important event with the passing of Mr. Andrini, your presence at Rock the Block, and bringing all the resources to bear at the Youth Summit. I think it's really excellent, the relationship we have with the Sheriff's Department and being part of our community. I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I love taking credit for other people's work, but it's the people back here. They really do all the planning, they do all the work, and the men and women are just fantastic, and I can't say enough about them, and they usually make me look good.
Yeah, and continue to pass the thanks on. I know the Assistant Sheriff was in the room last Thursday, and Lieutenant, soon-to-be Captain was there, and a number of other officers were all there from the Sheriff's Department, so thank you very much for that and helping coordinate the whole thing, and we appreciate it very much.
Great, thank you. And maybe I could comment really quick on a little bit of the reorganization in the Sheriff's Office. Operations has gotten so big with the taking on of the different cities and stuff, it's going to break into 2 sections. We're going to have a South Operations and a North Operations, and I'm really proud to say that Captain Lisa Williams is going going to take over North Operations, which Half Moon Bay is going to fall under. So it's going to be great for us. I'm going to have a direct contact to go to that's really going to understand the issues and the things that are going on in Half Moon Bay, and is also a Half Moon Bay resident.
Thank you very much. Be safe, all of you. Appreciate it. So we'll move on. Consent calendar. And we have a number of items on consent. If anyone has any comments or questions regarding it. If not, we'll...
I'll make a motion to approve consent calendars, items 1 through 7.
I'll second.
Any further discussion on the consent calendar? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
So ordered. Thank you. Okay, we're getting organized here. So, number 8, I believe, is our next one. It's a ordinance and public hearing over wireless telecommunication facility, correct?
I'm going to turn this over to Dante.
Thank you. Excuse me. Mayor and members of the City Council, tonight we'd like to introduce the ordinance regarding the city-initiated amendments pursuant to the California Coastal Commission actions related to Title 18 zoning of the Half Moon Bay Code, Municipal Code, sections 18.22.240 through 18.22.370, wireless telecommunication facilities, adding new subsections set forth in section 18.20.025A to local coastal development permits addressing wireless telecommunication facilities, and adding new subsections set forth in the code under visual resource protection standards and telecommunication facilities. These were previous amendments that for wireless communication facilities that were recommended for approval to the City Council in September 25th of 2012. The City Council approved the amendments on August 20th of 2013. They were sent to the Coastal Commission for certification. The Coastal Commission heard the case, reviewed the case, and they recommended the amendment with modifications on April 9th of 2014. So this report and the ordinance just clarify some of the modifications made by the Coastal Commission. It was presented to the Planning Commission on May 13th of 2014, and it is being recommended tonight to the City Council for approval. The Coastal Commission modifications were intended to really protect the resources, the coastal resources, to the maximum extent of the law. So the amendments clarify not only the circumstances required by federal law that new and co-located wireless communication facilities can be located in a way that do not adversely impact coastal resources, but they also include things like height limits, camouflaging techniques, and on facilities that really cannot unavoidably be located with within significant public view sheds. Also, the language in the modifications recommended by or reviewed and recommended by the Coastal Commission will include modifications to our local coastal development permits, that's chapter 18.20, and the visual resource protection standards in chapter 18.37 of our zoning ordinance. So this ordinance is being introduced tonight for public comment, and it will be considered for adoption at a future meeting, at the next meeting of our City Council. If the City Council adopts these modifications, staff will present or submit the record to the Executive Director of the Coastal Commission for final certification. Staff will be notified about final certification approximately 30 days after submission. to the Coastal Commission for review. So that concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions before the public hearing is open.
A question of staff, and then I'll open the public hearing.
Oh, yes. Dante, I was interested in the comment that you had said that they were adding the height limits and also camouflaging techniques.
Yes.
What kind of camouflaging techniques are they talking about?
They're looking at certain colors that the equipment can be. It has to blend into the background. There are techniques that make them look like trees. There are techniques that make them kind of blend into the background, the surrounding background.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'll open the public hearing at this time.
Yes.
I have no speakers on this public hearing at this time. I will close the public hearing. This is my gavel tonight. That's okay. So back to council. Any other questions of staff? I can tell you Friday morning and yesterday morning, the city attorney and I could attest to this, and maybe he's happy about it, but when you travel the coast, you lose cell communications all the way up the coast, which is kind of good and bad. Going down at 4 in the morning, Salinas yesterday morning, nobody calls you, it bothers you. Of course, who's up at 4 in the morning other than, nobody calls Councilman Kowalczyk, but coming home and you lose it out of Santa Cruz and you get it back a little bit in Pescadero, but it's nothing to joke about. I often think about what if there's a tragic accident. Where do you go? Run into Davenport to report it. But
Pescadero to Davenport is pretty much a dead zone. But I will comment on this ordinance, though, that before the council adopted this provision of the zoning code, there were no regulations of cell towers in Half Moon Bay, which is astounding to me, but this fills that glaring omission in your zoning regulations.
Thank you. That's why we have great staff like yourself and others to make sure that we do have things in place. Vice Mayor?
I'll make a motion if there's no other comments.
Yes. Do we need a motion to move it forward, or this is just the end of the public hearing? Help me out there quickly.
You should close the public hearing, and then a motion to introduce the ordinance would be appropriate.
Correct, thank you. Yep, I did close it, and so now we can accept the motion, please.
Introduce the ordinance number C-2014, city-initiated amendments pursuant to the California Coastal Commission actions relating to Title 18 zoning of the Half Moon Bay Municipal Code, amending sections 18.22.240 through 18.22.30, wireless telecommunication facilities, adding new subsections set forth in section 18.20.025A to local coastal development permits addressing wireless telecommunication facilities, and adding new subsections set forth in section 18.30.070 ABC to visual resource protection standards for telecommunication facilities.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Thank you for that motion. It was quite lengthy, but you know, if you look at the staff report, there's a lot of information that had to go into this, so thank you all very much for that. So may I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Alifano?
Yes.
Councilmember Patridge?
Yes.
Councilmember Kowalczyk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fraser?
Yes.
Mayor Mueller?
Yes, so ordered. Moving on to item 9, I believe, and this is staff report and resolutions. So number 9, we will go with Michelle, I believe, right?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. The item before you this evening is the approval of the improved signage matching funds program for the Half Moon Bay.
Number 9 is the sewer.
Oh,
rate.
sewer.
You jumped ahead of me, Mayor.
I was so excited.
Did I miss one there?
Yes.
Number
9 is the sewer rate. Let me start off a little bit first.
Okay.
The good news is that, reviewing the sewer charges, we do not need a rate increase this year. The City Council over the past 5 years has worked very hard to bring this fund to balance. They have done rate increases of 17% in 2009-10, 31% in 10-11, 27% in 11-12, another 9% in each year of the 12-13 and 13-14. This was partly due to the fact that between 1997, 98, and 2008, 2009, there were no increases. So we were falling behind in our rates and our ability to maintain the system the way we need to. And, you know, as the mayor pointed out earlier this evening, the real purpose of our sewer service and wastewater issues is to protect the environment. That is our highest concern. We need to protect the environment. So what we are suggesting that this year that we take a more long-term view of what the rates could be or should be going forward, that this year we do not look to have a need for raising rates, but we should really look at what our operational plan is over the next 5 to 10 years and figure out what rates we need to maintain our operations within the city of Half Moon Bay, that we look at the SAM capital projects and the SAM budget over the next 5 to 10 years and see what kinds of rates we will need to support SAM so they can protect the coast, and also to look at what capital projects that we need over the next 5 to 10 years and develop a funding plan for our capital projects to maintain our sewer system. So those are the 3 components that make up the rate, and what staff's recommendation at this point is to work through this year to determine a plan for funding all 3 of those aspects going forward.
Any questions of Interim Senator, Councilman Alfano?
Yes, I've talked with Stuart about this, and I have real concerns that, I mean, we went through those years where we were forced to those gigantic rate increases, which we all hated to do, but we had to get things back on track. I'm not positive that this is the right thing to do, to have a 0 increase. My gut feeling is we should probably at least have a cost of living type increase, whether it's 1%, 2%, 3%, and any excess funds really need to go into our reserves, because we know with SAM that we're going to be faced with some major capital outlays down the road. So anything we can do, if in fact there is a minor increase and we do allocate it all to our reserves, it's just looking forward to the day when we're going to have to do some major improvements, capital improvements at SAM. So as much as I like the zero increase, I'm sure everybody in town would like it, I think the more judicious approach might be a very small increase.
Councilman Patridge?
I tend to agree a little bit with Alan, but mine's not about the reserve. My concern is the way that SAM is doing the budget. You know, we thought we had a 3-way budget: operations, maintenance, and capital. Well, that capital has now changed to capital maintenance or whatever, which means we're going to be stuck literally paying for capital projects for the other 2 agencies. I'm not too happy about that. So if we're saying that there's no sewer increase, where are we going to get the money? Because it is capital, it comes out of all of us. So unless that's changed back to straight capital, I'm not comfortable not having an increase to cover the charges that are going to be in this year's budget. I'm not talking about any future budget. I'm talking about this year's budget. I was very happy when you guys reported that there were 3 separate budgets, and then after the next meeting, it was changed again to maintenance capital maintenance. It's not totally capital. So unless I'm wrong, I don't want to get stuck with being in a position of not having funds, and the budget hasn't come to us, so I'm not quite sure if it's going to stay that way or if it's going to stay strictly capital. If it's going to stay strictly capital, then I'm a little bit more comfortable, but if it's not, I'm not.
Councilman Kowalczyk?
And I'll ask staff to help me with the right names for this, but the SAM board approved 3 budgets. to send to the member agencies for review and potential approval. The third being a capital budget. That was what we were approved. That was what is in our minutes. When the budget, I believe when the budget arrived for review, the numbers were the same, but the naming of the budget was different. The SAM board did not approve anything other than what was in the minutes. So it may have been renamed for some purpose, but we did not rename it as a board. And so there may be some posturing there. So I sort of want to explain what's going on with that.
So if it's coming out to us as agencies and that name's been changed and we're approving that, then we really shouldn't approve it if that was not the name that you approved as the board. So that's my concern. I don't like that posturing that's going on. I mean, it's either got to be capital or it's not capital. I mean, whatever's in the minutes and what we approve and it says that title, I guarantee you they're going to say that's what it was.
Excuse me, I think, point of order, I think we have to be careful if we're too far ahead of the game. We really have to discuss this item and not get into the budget of SAM because it's not before us.
Okay, but I'm saying the sewer rate, okay.
I understand.
All right, I went a little too far, sorry.
Am I correct on that, City Attorney, that we better stick with this one agenda item?
Well, you are correct that the item before you has to do with sewer rates, and I think that Councilmember Patridge's comments are certainly, they do have a bearing on that, so I don't think you're getting too far afield, but I think perhaps Stuart is preparing to clarify a point, looked like to me.
So, Vice Mayor would like
I'm happy to reply as well.
Let the Vice Mayor make a comment, and we'll get back to you, Stuart.
Well, there seems to be, and thank you for bringing that up, Councilmember Alfano. While there seems to be some other things going on that is not before us right now, and I can appreciate because we don't want to have a large sewer rate hit people. As there was historically, there was no raises, and then for a few years we kept raising it up to meet the needs of this. But as there's some other things going on that still need to be settled, I would be comfortable at this time not raising the sewer rates, but as we get into this and get more detailed information, go forward with doing what we have to do to match this, to match the operation of the sewer rates. Because the capital maintenance thing, I think needs to be nailed down one way or another. We've gone through this for many years and it's still not resolved. And that's as much as I'll say because we'll get into the other things.
So, Stuart, maybe you could make some brief comments regarding this. I guess we need to know comfortably if we're going to be okay with staff's opinions on holding this agenda item to where it is right now.
Yeah. There is enough money available for capital projects in reserve. There's some money set aside for future capital projects in this upcoming budget. So there will be enough money no matter what you do with the SAM budget, and we're going to bring it to you on the June 3rd agenda to maintain rates where they are. And I think, in reality, this council has spent, you're right, council members Patridge and Alfano, this council spent a lot of time to ensure that this community is paying their way. They're paying their costs to maintain the sewer system, to protect the coast. And I think a lot of that hard work that you've already done has paid off. We have an opportunity at this time not to ask the residents of Half Moon Bay to pay any extra this year. The goal is always to match our expenses with our costs. And what I would like to do is take a year to really understand what the future rates are going to be, to understand what the future costs are going to be. So that way the council is working with full information and are not working year by year. I mean, I think if you have a plan to go forward year after year and people have an expectation and understanding of what is happening with the sewer system, with the SAM system, and they understand what the rates will be, that provides you the best ability to have the best explanation. But depending on how you adopt the SAM budget on June 3rd, it would not impact our ability to hold the rates where they are today because of all the work that you've done in the past 5 years.
Thank you for that response there. That is reassuring. We could probably be one of the only agencies in America that are not raising a rate at the moment, if you think about it. But again, as it's been discussed up here, we have to be comfortable in the range if we're going to be able to continue to provide the service at what rate we have. And what I've read and what I'm understanding with staff presentations is that for this 2014 budget, we can be comfortable with that rate where we are. And then look at the longer range plan for the future, what we're going to have to need to replace and repair, and then we will adjust accordingly. But we won't have these huge swings like we had to have because no one would take the initiative to ensure that the rates raised up gradually over the year. They were just kind of hidden, but now they're not hidden anymore. But so from my perspective, at this moment, I'm comfortable with this agenda staff's recommendation. Councilman Patridge.
The capital portion of the budget, is this part of the sewer fee or is it separate?
This would be part of the sewer fee.
So do we know the amount that's in the budget for SAM that is now coming we have enough money in our capital portion to pay that and also to pay for our own capital projects?
Yes, for those that are in the upcoming year, we do. So we know what the SAM budget that they adopted, we know what our exposure is with the SAM budget. As I said, we will be bringing back this item at the June 3rd for the City Council to adopt the SAM budget, and we would bring back the budget that the SAM board has approved for your adoption.
Would you like to make a comment?
My comment is, why are we doing this before we approve the SAM budget then?
Well, maybe I could answer a little bit of it too quickly. That I think our staff's been meeting with the 8 member agencies, and they kind of have a pretty positive idea where the budget is going, if that's not correct. Is that correct? I'm sorry.
There's no. Okay.
Tony, did you have a question? I'll get back to Councilman Kowalczyk. A comment?
Well, just going back to the comments that were made previously about the sequence of events that took place from the SAM board, and what the JPA requires is annually for there to be essentially 2 different categories of budget prepared. One is the general operations and maintenance budget, which is called the general budget, and then another budget is for projects, which generally would be interpreted to mean capital projects. And so my understanding is that the SAM board approved operations, maintenance, and a capital replacement budget of a certain amount. That was the action taken, I think, at the March meeting. The document that was actually sent to the member agencies was not a capital projects budget. It was called a capital maintenance budget, which is, from my perspective, problematic because it's inconsistent with the terms of the JPA. Should have been referred to as a project budget. But in any case, the actions taken by the SAM board are what, from a legal perspective, should be transmitted to the member agencies. That was what was included in the SAM board agenda packet for that particular meeting, and that's the item that the City Council will, I believe, will be taking action on.
Thank you. I think when it comes to the JPA and members, it's almost like Groundhog Day. We kind of go through this every year in my memories, and so it does sound familiar. Councilman Kowalczyk?
Is there any urgency to deal with this?
Right, I was about to say that. You know,
can we
can
table
move
this
this to the
until
June 3rd meeting.
June 3rd meeting? That's what I would suggest. I'd feel more comfortable.
Okay. Okay, so we could table it until the June 3rd meeting, and we can move on to the next agenda item. I will say that Dante and Mo, you're going to owe Michelle a cup of coffee. You had her up here in the front hearing all this, so you guys tomorrow morning are buying coffee. So now we will go on to our next agenda item 10, and we have a handout. And so we'll get staff's presentation for item 10, please.
Okay, I'll start over. The item before you this evening is the approval of the improved signage matching funds program for the Half Moon Bay gateways in the downtown area. The recommendations were made by the Ad Hoc Signage Committee. And presenting with me tonight is Sharice McHugh, President and CEO for the Half Moon Bay Coastside Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau. So we'll go ahead. The Chamber's Economic Development Plan was approved by the Council on April 16, 2013. And part of that plan was the approval of Measure J, the Revenue Allocation Plan, which included the 5,000 two-year improved matching funds program. The purpose of the sign program is to direct travelers off Highway 1 and down Kelly Avenue to the center of downtown to ensure uniformity in design, character, and placement of the proposed signage. So the Chamber received the matching funds and is ready to move forward with the signage program. So before you, we have a presentation of what the signs would look like, the proposed signs, and their location. And Sharice, do you want to talk about the slides, and I'll go through them for you?
Sure. As you all, I'm sure, are aware, this one is done. It was very well received. We only have one more spot for a membership-driven organization on the coast. So that's the one coming in on Highway 92 on your right. So that one is completed. We decided to start out with the easiest ones first. So let's say you are coming down Highway 1 from the south, you're going north, you get to the fire station. Right before that, you see a sign that says Main Street to the right, so you go down Main Street. What happens is that people get about 2 blocks down and they don't see any stores. They don't see anything that looks like a Main Street. So then they think maybe I was wrong, and they make a left at the next opportunity and go back onto Highway 1. This is a little sign in front of Ocean Corners, and it's hard to see there, but I don't know if you have a handout. But it's got the logo, and I think it says Main Street and then Shop, Dine, Stay with an arrow. So it's just telling you, keep on going. I'm sorry, I got that backwards. That one was, yeah, okay. The next slide is the one from there. This is if you're coming off of Highway 1 onto Main Street and you are going south. So you're turning, you have just passed Hassett Hardware on your left, you have the back of Rite Aid on your right, and you're approaching Highway 92. On this lamppost, basically, it's the same thing for the same reason. You turn off Highway 1, you start to go down Main Street, and you have the backs of buildings, and you have the PG&E structure, and it's like, what Main Street? This is to tell you to keep on going. So those two signs are very similar, just at opposite ends of Main Street when you get off Highway 1. We just did that one, so go next. Okay. Okay, so this would be phase 2. And by the way, the approximate costs and installation are there. We had the Graphic Works give us the approximate cost. The installation has to be done by a contractor, and these were estimates because we haven't actually had someone take a look at it since the signs are not built. Okay, phase 2 involves the present beautification committee signs. The beautification committee was kind enough to tell us that we could use their poles. Their signs, one of them is completely broken, the other ones are showing wear and tear. So again, this is in keeping with our signage program with the same look and feel everywhere. So you have the logo on the top, and then that one says, well, it's more of a welcome sign because you're just coming into Half Moon Bay. It does have an arrow that goes at a little angle and says Shop, Dine, Stay, so that they go off of Main Street. This is another beautification sign. This is you're on 92, you have just left Highway 1, you're traveling east, and this is at Tom and Pete's. This sign presently is broken. The beautification sign that is there presently is broken. So we would take over those poles again, saving us quite a bit of money. And again, this is, it's not a welcome sign because you're in Half Moon Bay, so I'm sorry, it does say, it is a, you know what,
Teresa,
Michelle?
it has an arrow and it points to Main Street. It's a good sign.
Yeah, I know. You know what? We put the wrong one up there. But this one actually says Main Street, and then with an arrow to the right, Shop, Dine, Stay again. And in case you're wondering why we are not doing the historic Main Street, there's a couple of different reasons. One, it's a lot to read when you're traveling, number one. Number two, we have done some research and talked to people. I have gotten several phone calls, and people are confused because they think the historic means that it's a historic Main Street, and they don't realize that there are contemporary shops and dining and everything. So, and to be honest with you, the Beautification Committee did have historic Main Street on there, and everybody complained that everybody was missing Main Street. So why not try the other tactic? And it keeps them all with the same thing in mind: shop, dine, stay. Okay, now we're at phase 3. This one is not a Beautification Committee sign, but again, when going way back, when Blair King was the city manager and we first started talking about doing these signs, we came to the realization that if you pointed people from Highway 1 down Kelly Avenue, you were dropping them off in the center of town. And there's no doubt that you're downtown and that you have stores and restaurants and everything right there. It's a better entrance than either of the South or the North Main Street that is coming, along residential, backs of buildings and all that. So this is if you were coming north on Highway 1, you're approaching Kelly Avenue, Cunha Fields are on your right, and we would have a sign along there again that would say Main Street with an arrow, shop, dine, stay. And again, this is the wrong sign. It should say Main Street. This is the same thing as you're coming south. If you are approaching Kelly Avenue and the Coastside Inn is on your right, Shoreline Station is on your left, you would have a sign again that would say Main Street, shop, dine, stay. Then there was a couple of future projects suggested. Well, this is actually not gateway signage. This is the sign, this is not future. This is one that I'm hoping that we can do rather soon. This is Main Street and 92. I know that all of you have gone to many other cities, and if you will notice the sign to the right of the stoplight up there, that little tiny sign on that big pole says Main Street. I've gone to a lot of other towns where that little tiny sign is this, is 3 times that size. I'm not exactly sure why we got that sign that was that small, but I'm hoping that Mo could maybe rectify that if given the funds so that we could change those into larger ones. They also were originally hung so that they were on the opposite poles, so when you drove up to the intersection, the Main Street was actually above you, and when you looked across the street, there was nothing there but the back of the sign. So those we had switched a couple of years ago so that you actually would look across the street and see a Main Street sign. Okay, so this was, when we put the committee together that took a look at this. It was made up of several different merchants on Main Street and community people. They were talking about the possibility of when you come in to Highway 92, it could be anywhere that city council and a committee or whatever decided, but the thought was somewhere, for instance, around Spanish Town, to actually have an arch over Highway 92, welcoming people to the city of Half Moon Bay. And since we couldn't come up with an actual arch there, Michelle found an arch and we just sort of put that on there. Would it look like that? Probably not. It would probably be an arch that, excuse our limited graphic ability, but it would probably be an arch that would say, welcome Half Moon Bay, California, or whatever, with the logo, hopefully to keep it, in keeping with our look. And then one more, if we were going to do this so that we had welcome signs everywhere, you would go up and somewhere around Sam's Chowder House, you would have a sign on the side of the road that would also say Half Moon Bay, California, welcome, that would be in keeping with the others. These are way out of our budget, so this is just future signage. Both of these last ones are obviously way out of our budget, so this would be future signage that we could keep on the radar.
Okay,
Thank you.
so thanks, Sharice. The phases for the signage are 1 through 4, which would cost approximately $23,000. Phases 1 through 3 is $14,200. Phase 4, $4,800. We would have to do wind load permits. The chamber has matched the funds that were approved from using Measure J funds, matched $5,000, so we have a total of $10,000 that have been raised for this signage. So the additional funding for this project would be $13,000. In conclusion, it's recommended that the City Council approve the conceptual signage program. We understand that we would work with the chamber to submit a master sign program application to the Planning Department as required by the city's municipal code, after the Planning Commission's approval and prior to permit issuance. We would have to do, some of the sign options may require the wind load analysis to ensure that the proposed designs can withstand wind velocities expected to occur after installation. That concludes our presentation, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Can I add one thing? We actually, as of today, have $5,600.
Keep pumping it up. We'll listen. Councilman Kowalczyk.
Thank you. A couple questions, clarifying questions. First of all, that logo design is pretty compelling. It makes me want to come visit Half Moon Bay, so I really like that.
You do. Since you were on that committee a couple of years ago, I'm glad.
All right, well good. And then just to clarify, Sharice, when Sharice described the signs, you said, this one will be different. It will say Main Street. Now, just so I want to understand, does it say logo Half Moon Bay, Main Street?
No, the ones that are on the outer would be a welcome sign, so they would say Half Moon Bay, California, welcome. The ones that are right adjacent, like to Main Street, which would be this one over here by Tom and Pete's and the two by Kelly, they would actually say Main Street, and then with an arrow to the right, Shop, Dine, Stay.
Okay, so they don't say Half Moon Bay, California?
No, they shouldn't say Half Moon Bay. I don't know
so
how those got in there.
So we're not approving designs tonight, we're approving the program, correct? We are not approving designs tonight, correct? We're just approving potentially approving the program, not the designs themselves.
The designs are conceptual.
Got it.
We worked with a graphic design to come up with what it would look like. All we know is that we would have to go back and do additional work to develop
Okay,
those.
I just wanted to note that I think the designs need some development, and I look forward to seeing them when they come in their final format. But I think this is a great idea. I can only imagine how pleased the merchants are to see all this activity around Main Street. It is attention and effort to help our overall community and the economics of our community, and I think it's viewed as a good thing. And hopefully they're participating in this process. But overall, I want to stop one thing from happening, which, and Michelle, you may not have heard the story, everyone else heard the story 10 times, which is I previously lived near Main Street, and I would have people stop me and say, hey, is there a downtown around here? And I was literally a block away. So I think this will be really helpful.
Thank you. I think you could stand down now. Thank you, Sharice.
If you read up there rather than look at the picture, it will tell you what each sign says, all the way on the top.
And Vice Mayor?
As long as this is conceptual, it looks like there's a few things that have to be worked out, but I do like the consistency of it all around, and I get the idea of what you're trying to do, because there's the two things that people always ask as they're coming down 92, and they stop me at 7-Eleven. Where's the beach? And where's your downtown? And, you know, I'm just literally go like this. So we all know where everything is, but it's interesting to have that other perspective from people who don't live here, just trying to find things, and they think New Leaf or Straw Flower is the downtown. They don't know. So I think this will help tremendously. And I'm also pleased that that broken sign after many years on 92 is going to be fixed, and there'll be a new sign on that. But I like the consistency. I think that's important as we go around.
I agree, and I think Councilman Kowalczyk hit the nail on the head. That this is another example where we're trying to show the Main Street business people that we do support them without a doubt, because signage makes, I think in the business world of signage, makes the business people feel good. Hopefully people aren't just looking at their devices to figure out where they're supposed to go on GPS, but signage is very important no matter what community we go to. I still like to see signs and ask for directions if I need to get them. And so I think it's a good start, a good recommendation. I believe we will have a motion to improve signage. Councilman Kowalczyk?
Sorry, John. Two quick things. One, I know, Michelle, you mentioned they need to be tested for wind load. We faced that issue with the sign on Highway 92, which was designed and built and ready to go up, and said, hey, whoa, we can't do that. So I'm absolutely certain that'll be a factor and a cost factor going forward that we'll have to plan for. And I also noted that this mentions, the future phase mentions gateways. I know the city set aside funds out of Measure G, I think was $125,000 towards gateway activities in the future, in the coming not this year for sure, but down the road, but out of Measure J money, I believe. So I just want to mention that as well. And Sharice, if you want to match that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. So,
I move to approve the improved signage matching funds program for the Half Moon Bay gateways in downtown area.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. So moving on to item 11.
Yes, so at the last council meeting, we were talking about Measure J. The city council asked staff to bring back to review the potential projects and to give the city council a better understanding of how the Measure J 3-year extension would dovetail into other issues that the city is facing. Scott put together a number of charts for you to review, but as you can see, the big issues that we're facing are, finishing the street improvement program. We're looking at putting some money aside for Smithfield. We're putting some money aside for trails, as well as putting additional money aside for the library. Other issues, the long-term issues that we're still trying to work on the funding are things like the library, which we had talked about previously. This Measure J does not, this extension of Measure J will help fund that, but it will not totally fund that. And the other one that we are working through is the Smithfield master plan that you put money aside for. So this puts a little bit of money aside for that, but probably not enough to cover that. So there are still other needs that this community has beyond just what we're looking at, but this extension of Measure J would definitely work through fixing all of the streets in town and add assistance to other issues that are of extreme importance for this community. I'll turn it over for Scott unless I stole all of his thunder.
So we prepared a presentation tonight. We've done some research regarding extending Measure J, and if we were to do that, Measure J would continue with the same name. And so, given the report City Manager provided, Scott will go ahead with the charts that he's talks about Measure J in the timeline.
So, as we are aware, our current timeline and sequence of events, Measure J ends March 2016, and everything that we've previously discussed is premised on this. So this is just a proposed timeline. If extended, what would happen is that it simply seamlessly continues at April 2016 and brings us all the way to the end of March 2019, which we know, and we'll discuss further, is a significant date for us as we look at projected budget. And over that same time span, this is what a 3-year model looks like. We went with what we consider a most likely scenario from our contracted sales tax analytics firm, and kind of soften those numbers a little bit. So this is most likely scenario. Staff recommends an expectation of 3.7 to 4 million over 3 years, and it's staggered across fiscal years, so we have the partial years on the end, 3 months, 9 months on the last one, and then 2 full years. Excellent. And what we did here is we simply plugged those same values into a hypothetical use. As you can see, streets is still the majority at 2.6 million, combined with other funding. That gets us much farther to completing that project. We're going to have a further report on that in a month. And as well, as mentioned, Smithfield Plan, trails and other parks projects, and then the addition of library debt service assistance. That's what I referred to it as, and we'll talk more in more detail about that specifically in the next slide. So I know this is a busy table, and I'll just walk you through it here. As requested last time, we have projected revenues as well as a potential debt service needs as we think about the construction of the library. So what you have across the top, the very top line there, these are our best guess budget projections in future years. And there's not a lot of changes to the current knowns. We have very, very modest projected increases to revenue. Another variable, another assumption in there is there's a decreased transfer out to capital. And then, so as you can see, that those are our projections across the top, and then you have the bond payoff savings, and that increases as it's paid down, and of course the full realization of it on the end there, and that's very significant for the city. That brings you to a subtotal, and then in the shaded section, or right under the shaded section there, we have the projected Measure J extension that we just discussed. And that's how it would break out across the fiscal years. And so what we did is we just gave you a couple of scenarios there. These are highly preliminary numbers, but if we're talking about 11.5 million or 12, or roughly $1 million difference, this is what the debt service looks like and your net amount for the first 5 years.
So with that, in conclusion, it's recommended that the City Council provide direction to staff regarding the specifics of a proposed measure. If we were going to do the ballot measure, whether we extend it for 3 years or beyond 3 years, we would have to prepare the documents for the ballot, developing that language to include a sunset clause, draft a resolution adding it to a ballot measure to the November 2014 election, and create an ordinance. We would return June 17th to adopt the resolution. This concludes our presentation, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Council members, Alfano? A lot of numbers there, of our Vice Mayor.
Yeah, no, again, I just need a minute to sort through some of this.
And I'd be happy to walk you through
Rick's
that.
ready. Yeah.
table.
Scott, you two are overwhelming us with...
No, well, let me come to his defense. If we can go back to the number slide.
Yes. Help us out there.
This is, so to Scott's defense, this is exactly what I asked him to prepare. So I thank you for that.
You stay, the rest of us are going home.
But so I met with staff to discuss potentially extending Measure J. My starting position, my stake in the ground is I'm not for it. I need to understand justification to even consider extending a tax measure. We've done very well for ourselves. We're back on our feet. And there are a number of things that would make that option palatable to me. One of them is, the primary one is the ability to substantially fund a new library, which is why I asked Scott to prepare this spreadsheet, with the first row being budget surplus we already have coming in. The second row being extra revenue we're going to get as a result of savings from paying off the bonds. The third row being the revenue we get from extending a Measure J. Essentially, extending a measure, so this is my conclusion. I've moved my stake in the ground, because if we can extend Measure J and get us to the year where the bonds are fully paid off, we're in a position to substantially fund a new library without going out to the public again asking for a tax increase. We may have to do some private fundraising to help support that. But the scenario one assumes a $23 million library, because we only have to pay for half. So the number there, the $726,000, is how much we'd have to pay every year toward a $23 million library. And with extending Measure J, it's within the realm of it's being feasible without all the details being worked out. So I like that. Secondarily, what was my other point? So I would support, and I think the community would support, our very clear need for a new library. And I think this helps get that done in a way that is interesting. It may, and I believe it helps us avoid having to go out and ask for an incremental bond. I think we would be able to create, I guess it's a bond based on these cash flows, it's a different thing, but it's not asking for more, which is amazing. Going from a city that was nearly bankrupt to a city that can potentially self-fund, substantially fund a new library is pretty significant. My second big point is the things we suggest as potential uses of an extension of Measure J are very important, because when we did Measure J the first time, we said the community trusted us. We said we intend to use the funds for the following reasons, A, B, C, D. But when we received those funds, we were not committed to it. If we say it in a general way like that, it's a 50% plus one hurdle. If we make a specific request for funds for specific reasons, it's a 2/3 hurdle. So we said we intend to use the funds for A, B, C, D. Measure J passed. we use those funds exactly for that purpose. And we had oversight, and it came back to us and illustrated that everything we said we would do, we did. We also picked a 3-year term because we told the community, I remember specifically, if we can deliver these projects and get this done, and if we need more, and if we've done a good job, we won't be shy to say, we need 3 more years. That gives us a good break in the middle. Everyone wants, oh, let's do it for 25 years, right? But it gives us a break, early break to say, how have we done? And this is what we want to do next. And I think what we want to do next is, the library. The other things here are important, but those things that we say are intended or are potential uses of funds will appear in the ballot language, and that is important. I worked with staff to create a very early version that is not for review of things that we think are important to the community. I think our library debt service is a big one, and I think it's going to be a little bit higher than the 0.5 listed in the pie chart. We have streets that cannot be repaired. I think the street repairs or the street improvements here are essentially replacements or substantial repairs. They're a major deal, and I know some members of our community have come to speak to us about that. That's a big one. Work on Smith Field is a big one. So the things we say we intend to spend the money on become very important. So I think it should be some substantial things and some quick win things. And we'll use that language if the council agrees to extend Measure J. We'll craft ballot language that reflects that. But I think we're saying to the community, we want to make another commitment to do these kinds of things, and then we'll have an oversight. If it's approved, we'll have oversight, and we will do those kinds of things. That's what I'd say.
Wow, thank you for those fine, thoughtful comments, because, it's kind of been my experience the last 3 years that really we have done what you all set out to do, and we're not getting feedback and, oh my God, it's ruined our business and those kinds of things. I picked up a couple of visitors from Canada yesterday. They were sitting in front of City Hall and asking for a taxi. And so it's not about me, excuse me, but I said, I'll take you. Where do you want to go? And so I took them out to Sam's Chowder House for lunch and dropped them off, and they just couldn't believe they rode in a truck with a guy with overalls. But that's not the story. The story is they enjoyed visiting Main Street, as Charissa stressed, but they were looking for a ride to go to have a lunch somewhere. And they never questioned. They had little bags. They purchased things. They never questioned. They just thought, what a great city, what a great community. And they didn't bring up the tax at all, because Canada is taxed quite highly on a lot of items. So I think, to me, I think we're on the 3-year projection, in my opinion, is very positive. I think the key number that I know we had great discussion and debate over, respectfully, that 2019 year is just absolutely amazing. From 2007, 8, and 9, what we all went through, to look at 2019, which is so not too far away for all of us. Come a long way, my friends. And so I would personally be a support of a 3-year measure, just at the moment. Vice Mayor?
Yes, thank you. And obviously, I want to see a library built. But I think it's important to note that we don't know exactly how much it will cost right now. We could be, there's not 30 million in it. It's not, we don't know that it's 23 million. And we will have all that information at a special session in July, based on the needs of the community, what they're requesting, what the library professionals are telling us. So we'll get a better number of that. So I would like to see us, whether it's in Measure J, I'm glad that we're in a situation where we will not have to go out and ask the community of Half Moon Bay for a bond. Never wanted to see that, and now that we are financially sound where we can sustain this ourselves, I'm very pleased. And as you said, that's a long way from a few years ago. I never thought we'd see this day. Or last month, where we gave out that $1.3 million to the community, to the projects they like. So feedback, was the strongest is the streets need to be paved, and we did that with Measure J. That was really important, as well as improving the recreation facility. So a lot of this I see is for us who live here. Yes, other people will benefit from it, but these are the things that we've wanted for so long for ourselves, for those of us who lived here. So this is a big priority. So again, we don't know the exact cost of the library. We'll see that in July. I am pleased that this is not longer. I might be able to consider 4 or 5 years, but I'm happy with the 3, and if everyone's comfortable with that. Because I think it holds us accountable to, did you do those things that you said you would in those 3 years? And it's easier to see within that small amount of time than years later. So I'm pleased with that part too. And just if the city manager could let us know, with the ramped up monies we had put in for this budget and for next year for street improvements, I know it was like at one time it was going to take 10 years to do that, then 5 and 7. I think we've even accelerated that. If you could just help me out, if we extended this more, would we have all those streets covered? That one are the high priority, the really bad ones, and the ones that need to be maintained on a regular basis, so we can get ourselves in a regular momentum of street improvements. And for Smithfield, are we looking at long-term? That's probably with field maintenance and redoing all of the infrastructure for water, potential turf fields, and of course there's a lot of fundraising to do that. That's at about 7 or 8 million total over a 7-year period or so. If you could just clarify a couple of those things so I can understand this a little more.
Sure. So this 2 million, if we put this much money towards the streets over the next 3 years, plus what we have planned for the streets, we will be able to go through all of our poor streets and bring them up to our level that the city would like. The Smithfield project, we don't have the master plan yet. We have had preliminary conversations concerning the ball fields about how do we, for drainage of the ball fields and what it would cost. The anticipation would be if we were to try and do something like 2 turf all-weather fields and then 3 other fields that would be able to drain 24 hours after a 2-year rain event, and you create an all-weather parking lot, that cost would be in the neighborhood of $8 million. But there may be other things that come out of the master plan that would not be included in that. But if you're able to get 2 all-weather turf fields plus 3 other fields that can drain within 24 hours, you would then be able to maybe attract some different kinds of tournaments into this town. And that would have a benefit. That would be a benefit to the town outside of just the people who live here, but it would also help the tourism and the merchants in town. So when you're looking at these numbers, there are a lot of other needs that the city is working through. And I think I agree. I was here 3 years ago when you were going through those issues. I was here when you had to make the very tough decision about having the sheriff department, about getting rid of your parks and recreation department, and what you're able to now do for the community is incredible from where you were 3 years ago. And having the community back you and back themselves by putting Measure J out there, and being able to start rebuilding the community and building the community, making it better for the future. I think you're right, it's an incredible opportunity, but there are still other needs. If we talk about, having a $12.4 million debt service, and we don't have to go and put it on the property tax, back of the property taxpayers. So, we don't have to do a GO bond. We can do it out of, revenues, but you still have, some other capital project needs that we need to start thinking about, and we need to bring to you, we owe it to you as your staff to bring a long-term capital plan to you and a way to finance that plan. I hope that very long answer gave you the information you needed.
Yes, it did. Thank you. And I think it's important to note that Smithfield, the master plan of that is not just for Little League. It's for other recreational opportunities for the community too.
And I think the one thing that we have to remember is that it will take us a while to have gotten the streets up to par. I think once the streets get up to par, we won't have to use as much money, correct, Mo? It's just getting it there, and I think that's what the council needs to remember, the four of you, when you have to do this again, that, you know, that will not be as great of a debt to you, because they will have been at least brought up with this measure and stuff. So I really support the Measure J, and I support the 3-year. And I just want to say that it's remarkable what the city and the residents and this council have done to bring the city back. It's unbelievable. It really is when you think about it. And in perspective, you think about the bridge and all the things that we've had to go through. The financial that we've gone through and what we've done outweighs that bridge. It really does for me.
And I'll get to you, Councilman Kowalczyk. Along that line, I think, just a short time ago when Councilman Kowalczyk and Alfano was pursuing this for us, we be honest, we had our doubts. But you know what? You proved to us and the community that it was the right direction, and look what's showing and getting accomplished out there. So, and giving and sharing. It's about sharing. We really are sharing. And when you're governing, I like Stuart's comments about, we really need to look at the long-term prospect out there so that we set the foundation for the future of whoever will be in leadership positions, that previous council made the right decisions to ensure financial stability. So, Councilman Kowalczyk.
Yeah, thank you. And for the first Measure J, and we'll see how it goes, and whoever's going to be on the subcommittee for this one. But for the first time around, we didn't have consultants. No. We didn't lean on the community to give us money for that. I think we contributed a few $100s each. We put up some signs and we talked about it. And we said, this is important because we can do these things. And I envisioned the same kind of thing where we just communicate, articulate what the value is, what's going on here, and then talk to the community about what's in it for us and let them decide. So with that, can I suggest a direction to staff through the mayor? Okay. So I'm going to. So we have reviewed Measure J projects. So specifics for the proposed measure, we had talked about the items on the graph. So because that will end up being in the ballot language and being substantially funding library, new library, making street improvements, Smithfield improvements. We had also, with staff, had talked about improving youth and senior services and meeting. So if we put that in the ballot language, it means we will spend some money towards youth and senior, and I would prefer that be in the form of assets, things they can utilize. And I think that is good for ballot language. Other things in the staff report that we could include could be improve city parks, promote economic development and tourism. The last two being, it might clutter up the ballot language. I think I would suggest we use library, Smithfield, streets, youth and senior services as our four pillars of our ballot language, and we demonstrate to the community what we would, our intention to use the funds in that way. And then with that, I think preparing item number 3, the ballot measure and the ballot documents should be pretty easy because they're 99% done.
Can we add that we would have a steering committee just as we did? I think we need to make sure that that's in there.
Do we need a motion? Just direction to staff. I don't think we need a motion. Is that right?
No, we'll just continue to work with the subcommittee that we have to bring back language.
Thank you very much, staff, and all of you for bringing this forward. As we said, we really have to govern to the future. We can't continue to govern to the past, so this is definitely a move to the future. So with that, we have no other items on the agenda, so at this time, we will adjourn the meeting at 9:07.